You can scale your algorithms, you can scale your team, but are you scaling you? What is leadership? How are you amplifying your capabilities to produce more significant impact than what can be achieved as an individual? Are you influencing, supervising, directing, and inspiring projects and people around you? Hello, my name is Cathy Chang, co-author of Become a Leader in Data Science, Manning Publications. I built and led teams at Silicon Valley Data Science, where my teams and I parachuted into companies to address challenging and meaningful data needs. I've worked with leaders of centralized and distributed data teams at companies large and small, all betting the next product differentiation on data. Whether it's addressing data architecture inadequacies at a large asset management firm or preparing a Fortune 50 global consumer packaged goods company for its biggest shopping day of the year, I see a distinct need for data science leaders at companies as companies become data-centric. I will be moderating Ask Dr. Chong, Become a Leader in Data Science, Part 4. Ask Dr. Chong is a series where Dr. Jike Chong addresses questions on situations and challenges encountered when taking on leadership roles in data science. Audience questions are welcome. We'll continue to hold a session a month for the next 3 months, each time addressing a case study for how a data science leader faces challenges in their career growth. We share the background, visible symptoms, often in the projects and or teams that they're leading, make diagnosis based on our T-ERA framework, and discuss what they need to do and what they can do to resolve those challenges. We invite your questions, again, on the study, case study, and from your own situations. A brief introduction of Dr. Chong. Dr. Chong has personally mentored and promoted many data science leaders in the US and in China, in public and private companies. As an executive, he's built and grown multiple high-performing data teams. Dr. Chong was part of the executive team that took Eden Digital Limited public on New York Stock Exchange, and he also expanded and led the data team as the chief data scientist at Acorns, designed and executed a project predicting venture investment risks at Silver Lake. He also led the hiring marketplace data science team at LinkedIn, serving a business line with $4 billion a year in revenue. Dr. Chong, why don't you share a little bit about the reasons behind authoring this book?
Thank you, Cathy. Well, this is an exciting time for data scientists and the innovative companies that hires them, mainly because producing industry-leading data-driven innovations is currently within the reach of many nimble organizations. What we can see is that 95% of the companies with data science teams have teams of fewer than 10 members. Many data science leaders are eager to make great impact, take on more responsibilities, and develop themselves into executive leaders. But the directions and milestones are not so clear. Some large companies like Google and LinkedIn have leadership programs that addresses this challenge internally and for some specific stage of career development. But what about the rest of us? This is the main reason for us to write the book. And the book is intending to help you understand your existing strengths and to assess your developmental opportunities for the next stage of your career. The book is also here to give you a window into the concerns of your managers, so you can better understand where they might be coming from. The book is currently in Manning's early access program, where several chapters are already available and more chapters are coming online.
In chapter 1 of the book, we include a series of case studies highlighting common challenges that we have observed in our experience. The case studies span from early career data scientists who recently entered this exciting field to mid-career stage people who are beginning to lead teams, and to mature leaders who head up functions and hold executive roles. Let's take a look at one of those.
Yes. Today, let's take a look at the case of Jennifer, a data science tech lead.
Sure. Jennifer has a BS or Bachelor's of Science degree in chemistry, and she also has a master degree in statistics. She's made two lateral moves and was promoted twice at the company she joined 6 years ago. Initially joining the company as a business operations analyst, she moved into the BI or business intelligence function a year later, working with the product team. 3 years ago, when the company formed the data science team, she took the leap from BI and turned herself into a data scientist. Jennifer was promoted to senior data scientist a year and a half later, and then 3 months ago, as she was approaching her 6th year mark with the company, she got promoted to staff data scientist, also known as a tech lead in her company. While a senior data scientist, Jennifer had already proven to be good at communicating with business partners across the company, including product, marketing, sales, customer service, and operations, quite a few. With her knowledge of the business and her tenure at the company, she's also not afraid to push back on project scope when they creep up in order to deliver her projects on time. She's super excited to take on the new responsibilities as a tech lead. While the junior data science team members appreciate her mentorship, the more experienced team members, they kind of feel micromanaged. The team morale actually has taken a downward dive as people think they were asked to do a lot of busy work.
Yes, so this is a pretty representative case for new tech leads. And a number of very talented data scientists I've coached and mentored throughout the years have gone through similar situations.
So, a brief summary of what we just talked about in terms of the situation. Here's a challenge. Jennifer is good at cross team communications and executing projects, but her teammates feel micromanaged and are unhappy about some of the busy work. Jennifer's manager, Kai, talked with the team and identified two issues: to keep business partners in sync with project status. Jennifer was checking in with team members 2 to 3 times a week. That frequency seemed to work for some team members, but it kind of annoyed some of the more experienced team members. Kai also observed that when business partners initiated changes to the projects, Jennifer led the team to deliver the results. Still, not all team members they didn't really understand why those changes were taking place. When Jennifer got this feedback, she was confused. Isn't it a data science team lead's job to deliver results to business partners?
Yes, for Jennifer to succeed in a tech lead role, she needs to learn some best practices to communicate changes to her team members. There's also ways to be less disruptive to team members' work while keeping track of project progress and maintaining the rigor of the projects. In Chapter 3, as well as Chapter 5, we discuss some of the execution ethics in adapting to business priorities in a dynamic environment. And we also look at some attitudes for trusting the team to execute from a leadership perspective. And with throughout this process, what we can do is to present a helpful coaching approach for Jennifer. And this coaching approach includes 4 steps: building her confidence by recognizing her leadership strengths, highlighting her personal path by looking at some opportunities for new practices for Jennifer, as well as leveraging the organization, leveraging the team, as well as her manager in helping her to improve on those best practices, and present a clear roadmap for her to progress. As we go through this, for you, uh, what you can potentially do to get the most out of checking out a case like this is that you can see how you measure up to Jennifer's strengths, how you have similar opportunities for new practices, or maybe you have alternative solutions that could work even better than what we share here. You can also see if you have similar kind of support system in your organization to help you develop your career, and see if you can start lining up your roadmap to incorporate some of these new practices.
So very important to identify the strengths first so we can help her build her confidence. So let's take a look at that. Now, Jennifer's got quite a few leadership strengths. So why don't we go through those three?
Yes. So we highlight about three leadership strands here, and they are listed here on the slide about prioritizing, rigorously plan and prioritize. Uh, she can also exhibit leadership in, she's also good at presenting leadership uh, capabilities in incident response, as well as taking responsibilities for her results.
So that's mainly her technical capabilities and her coordination um, capabilities.
That's right. That's right. So Jennifer's first leadership strength is uh, looking at rigorous planning and prioritization. And this starts with interpreting the business needs. This can actually be challenging for many data scientists. Many of your partners are not yet familiar with all the capabilities data science can bring, and they may have trouble providing specific requests that are a good framing of the data science problem at hand. Effective data science tech leads can learn to ask questions behind the questions by taking personal accountability for setting the data science project up for success.
There's actually a 2004 book by John G. Miller on QBQ, or the question behind the question, practicing personal accountability at work and in life on this topic. I also mentioned that in our January session.
Yes, that's right. And there can be quite a bit of nuance in a request that's as straightforward sounding as doing a personalized email campaign. Right? So when your marketing partner come knocking, and you are you taking personal accountability and asking why are we looking to drive the long-term user engagement and what type of user engagement is more valuable for the company for improving its enterprise value, and what are the return on investment expectations. So there are various, for example, there are various channels, stages for user acquisition. And they include user acquisition, activation, and retention. Depending on the goal of the campaign, the driving the long-term retention at each stage can have very different reach and can have very different goals as well. So Jennifer is good at sharing the trade-offs with partners and clarify the goals and expectations for the initiative. Just some of the variations to discuss is, for example, are we targeting the active users, passive users, inactive users, or prospective users for those long-term engagement? And for example, in our last session, in session 3, Brian of Brian had this area as an opportunity, and this is an area that Jennifer is already doing well at. So while there are with the many different possible requests from partners for each business initiatives, Jennifer can also be good at prioritizing these requests. And in fact, there are 3 levels of diligence for data science project prioritization. The first one is innovating on looking at the innovation and impact for potential projects. This is actually mentioned in Jacqueline Norris' blog, Prioritizing Data Science Work. And it's mainly looking at the space in terms of how innovative the project is and how impactful the project can be. So if a project is both innovative and high impact, this is what in the quadrant of what we all wish we were doing. But to the bottom left of this quadrants, you have the routine work and low impact work, such as reporting. And the idea is to focus on the high impact piece first. Uh, and when prioritizing, the providing proof, which is high impact and potentially routine type of project, should be uh, dealt out to the your team members with care because they may burn out the team members if they only do the higher impact but quite routine type of work. Some innovative projects that do not have a path to business impact appears as ivory tower ideas, and they can be a pretty big time sink, and these projects should be avoided. And then we have the approach of RICE, mainly an acronym stands for reach, impact, confidence, and effort. So an initial prioritization of the project can be produced with a weighted sum of these different factors. By reach, what we mean is how many customers a project can touch. For example, a more narrow population may be more targeted. So user experience can be more specific and we can get higher impact on them. But a broader reach may touch more people, but is less targeted, so engagement may not be as high. And for impact, we're talking about the overall business impact that is anticipated uh, by uh, the measurable lift to key operating metrics for the reachable population. By confidence, what we mean is for a data project to succeed, there's a number of operations risk to consider and how confident we are about uh, targeting and mitigating those risks. For efforts, they're usually there to ensure the data science project success. And these projects can take significantly more time than the time to build a specific model, right? So you may need multiple phases of the effort with the specific goals to achieve in each phase. And you may need different uh, milestones like proof of concept, product proof of concept, as well as phases of iterative improvements in order for a data science project to succeed. And of course, the scheduling for and reading A/B tests, the amount of time you need to expose populations to a particular feature should also be included in the amount of efforts required. And often these granularities of efforts are can be coarsely estimated based on T-shirt sizes, like small, medium, large, for a quick assessment. So Jennifer, in this case, is fluent in building a scorecard using reach, impact, confidence, and effort as scores to provide a prioritization rank to the project under consideration. So once you have done these kind of assessment, there may be project that's really important, but the ROI doesn't quite justify it, mainly because there is not sufficient infrastructure for you to be able to justify all those work it requires to make the project successful. So with this particular scenario, what we can do is look at these projects with large efforts that fails to be prioritized, and we can look at whether their components in, say, data aggregation or data enrichment can be shared between projects so that completing one project can offer learning that informs the viability or direction of other related projects. So this is where a data strategy comes in. A data strategy takes into account these relationships between projects to synthesize a roadmap where projects can build on each other. An ambitious data science project can then be sequenced such that efforts required for common components can be amortized across multiple projects to improve their return on investment and their prioritization position in the prioritization list. So as a tech lead, Jennifer can actually identify these data strategies well and align them with data science executives to discover opportunities to share overheads across projects to allow high effort, high impact data science projects to be prioritized.
So that's very good. Jennifer is fairly good at rigorously planning and prioritizing what she and her team need to do, which means she takes personal accountability and asks the question behind the question. She refines project prioritizations with RICE or reach, impact, confidence, and effort, and she aligns to the data strategy to amortize overhead. And we keep kind of going back and forth between Jennifer and you, and the intent is to leverage Jennifer's situation to speak to your strength as well. So let's now take a look at Jennifer's second strength area.
Yes. So Jennifer is rigorous in also managing the incidents that comes up. Well, incident management can be a delicate matter. Significant customer relationships and business revenues could be on the line. And modern technology systems are complicated with many moving parts. When service outages happen, a war room is usually called in companies with stringent requirement for system uptime, where colleagues from different functions are aggregated together to uh, help return the business operations to normal as quickly as possible. And to diagnose and learn from the root causes is also an important attribute for managing incidents, so that the problems that causes these incidents can be fixed at the source. As a data science tech lead, Jennifer is deeply understand the systems at the company and can coordinate incident responses through 7 steps. And they're listed here on the slide. So, at the first step, it's about acknowledging the incidents to the business. When anomalies may be detected through internal monitoring or partner notifications or customer support reporting outages. And in a mature engineering organization, a site reliability engineer is usually on call to log the issue. And then the tech lead for data science, Jennifer is immediately notified if it involves or impacts a data science related system. In this situation, Jennifer's timely response can build significant trust in cross functional collaboration, regardless of whether data science model or services caused the incident. Then, for the second step in incident triaging, the primary purpose is to decide if the incident needs to be escalated to other senior executives to be able to coordinate on potential external communication. Data science insights can be crucial for estimating the number of impacted users or partners, the potential for regulatory scrutiny, and the potential scope for critical data loss or potential critical security issues that may be involved.
There are quite a few steps, and maybe just a highlight on the rest of the steps, and we can talk about her other strengths as well.
Yes. So then the incident needs to be escalated if it's severe enough, and it needs to be prioritized as when all incidents are examined, not all are important enough to warrant dropping everything to handle. So it may be handled within the same day or same sprint, or maybe put on the backlog. And also, communication needs to be managed. So, after triaging and prioritization, if the incident is data science related, Jennifer can effectively drive the discovery of the root cause. And then for resolution, the resolution could look very different depending on the nature of the incident. And Jennifer, in this case, is also careful to maintain an attitude of humbleness by being inclusive and consult the stakeholders on the solution. And then finally, it's a learning process. The learning from an incident can be crystallizing an incident postmortem. And let's describe what the postmortem is.
That sounds good. So postmortem is something that I hear often, and in pretty much crosses both the technical and business side of of the aisles. So what's usually included in a postmortem in this particular context?
Yes. So postmortem summarizes a learning from an incident. It's usually written in 5 parts, and it can improve and can inform the improvements that can mitigate future risks while promoting the best practices that has worked well in handling the incident. So first, there is a brief summary, which should include the incident's context, highlight the incident type, length, impact, escalations, and fixes. And any escalation will be important to highlight to inform potential process improvements on minimizing the unnecessary escalations or disruptions to the business normal course. And then there is a detailed timeline, which should include an accounting of the events leading up to the incident and the response taken. And diligence here can help train new team members through simulations of how incidents evolve and how it can justify investments in shortening the incident response times. Then, for the root causes, it should be identified with the 5 why methodology to discover deeper reasons that how the incident occurs, such as lack of testing or human error because of a lack of automation, and each of the answers should inform for the 5 whys should be informing how we need to improve the processes in the future. And then you have the resolution and recovery, which should include the choices and rationales behind the fix and for the specific incident. And also, it should include the particular mitigation steps that are taken with the stakeholders informed and consulted. So, when you have successfully used a specific backup system or rollback system feature for your incident to reduce its response time, this is also an opportunity to celebrate that you have some good incident response systems in place.
Excellent. So sounds like Jennifer is effective in managing incidents as well, which means walking the 7 steps in an incident response, structuring a 5-part postmortem, and more. Let's now take a look at Jennifer's third strength. And in the interest of time, please keep it tight.
Yes. So, as a data scientist, we are all responsible for generating enterprise value for our business. But what does that mean? Let's highlight just 3 aspects. So, it includes clarity on goals, which means each well defined data science project should serve a business purpose. And while there may be multiple ways of achieving the business purpose, the tech lead can evaluate if the data science project plans has a solution uh, for the simplest method to achieve the business method.
Purpose.
Yeah, yes, the business purpose. So then there is also the focus on velocity, which means we should succeed quickly and fail fast. And the data science project's velocity comes from 2 aspects: the speed to initial solution and low friction to incremental improvements. And speed to an initial solution requires us to often focus on the 20% of the work that allows us to be 80% confident that the organization is moving in the right direction. So we often use this thing called the proof of concept project to accomplish this. And one common misconception about proof of concept is that we should pursue a quick and simple version of a project and build on it. And team often creates the pieces that they understand best and leave the uncertain parts to the end. But really, the real purpose for a proof of concept is to explore the feasibility of the portion of the project with the highest risk. So it should be an attempt to emphasize the project components with the most uncertainty and simplify the rest. So and then thirdly, for the communicating the impact, it's important to listen, engage, and lead. So what we mean by that is A successful tech lead reads carefully, writes well, and can get up in front of a group and speak. And this involves looking at this kind of communication techniques to different stakeholders, like to the team, to the managers, and to the business partners. So, with these three main leadership strengths, Jennifer is actually delivering significant value to her company as a tech lead.
So we have just discussed Jennifer's strength, and those are rigorous planning and rigorously plan and prioritize, exhibit leadership in incident responses, and take responsibility for results. So now let's look at the areas of opportunities that can help her communicate changes more effectively and give trust to her team members to execute as well.
Yes, so let's focus on three specific areas for Jennifer: communicating the changes effectively, trust the team members to execute, and impart knowledge confidently.
So one of the challenges for Jennifer was the team morale, which took a dive as team members thought they were being asked to do a lot of busy work. Jennifer's manager, Kai, observed that when business partners initiated changes to the projects, Jennifer led the team to deliver the results. While she accomplished the business results, not all team members really understood why the changes were taking place, hence their interpretation of that being busy work.
Yes, so there's at least three best practices Jennifer can reference as opportunity for improvement. One is understanding the reason for the change. One is communicating to team members and stakeholders. And one is documenting the current project and moving on. So to continue proceeding, executing the change.
So that's documenting the current progress, right,
That's
for
right.
the project? Yeah, very
Yes.
good.
So, firstly, we're talking about understanding the reasons. So, understanding the reasons behind the change may not be easy. If there has been a change in management, for example, it's critical to learn about the new manager's style and previous experience. If acceleration or delays in related projects cause the change, it's important to understand the root cause as well as the impact beyond the specific project you're leading. And this can help you understand any secondary impact, such as like A/B testing schedule contentions as you plan new priorities. And also, changes could be caused by the happening in the business environment, from such as like disruptions from technology innovations, government policy changes, etc. And sometimes it may make sense just to complete the current project. And this would be a conversation that is worthwhile with your manager, or in this case, Jennifer should have a conversation with her manager to ensure the decision is in the organization's best interest to make the change at the current moment. And then there is a communicating to team members. So the team members on Jennifer's project are looking to Jennifer for what to do next. So with an understanding of the situation, Jennifer should coordinate with her manager to clearly articulate the changes to the team members. So, what does clearly communicating the changes mean? It means what has changed, understanding what has changed and why, how does it impact the immediate project, and also a timeline of what happens next, with who does what by when. And during the time of change, team members depend on the tech lead to bring clarity and certainty to potentially a chaotic situation. And this communication needs to happen quickly as information travels fast in today's instant messaging channels. And disinformation, sometimes rumors from alternative channels, can really undermine trust with team members. And beside your team members, it's also essential to inform all stakeholders, such as your product partners and engineering partners. Now, the goal here is to do the communication in a timely manner with clarity and authority. So, in that process, there should be one-on-one communication to uh, with the individuals that's affected by the change, and these kind of heads-up communication can really help build trust and provide a private forum for candid feedback and the safe brainstorming of the solutions and allow time for your team as well as your stakeholder project partners to prepare to communicate to their teams. There then can be a coordinated effort in having a plan of record and making sure that everybody is on board with that plan of record and see if any adjustments and escalations are required to resolve any differences. Finally, there is the announcement of the change with this plan of record for a path forward, which can provide a sense of clarity for the broader team so that problems can be presented with a solution plan in place. And the heads up before this announcement can also help partner teams build trust and authority with their team members and being open so that people can be open to also other questions and concerns and comments to help you understand any remaining unaddressed areas. So while this process can look cumbersome, but over time it can really help you build trust between team members and yourself, and between yourself and business partners, so that you can also build the authority with the team and allow the change announcements to be clear and solution driven. And finally, it's about documenting what's required and moving on. In this case, the documenting includes solution architecture, the current learning, risks that were removed through the work done. And uh, for this, if there is a set of partially developed code, it's crucial to make sure that the comments in the code reflects what's being done so far, so that later on, when you're picking up a half-developed project, it's as commented. So with a clear set of documentation and the progress so far, you can update any tickets and be well positioned to tackle the team's new priority.
Sounds like there's a lot of involved process. You don't want to communicate too early. You don't want to communicate too late. You can't have it as a worst kept secret either. So so one opportunity area as we just talked about is for Jennifer is to communicate changes effectively by understanding the reasons, communicating to team members and stakeholders, and documenting current progress in order to move on. Another challenge for Jennifer is that the more experienced team members feel micromanaged. Jennifer's manager Kai, as we mentioned earlier, observed that to keep business partners in sync with project status, Jennifer was checking in with team members 2 to 3 times a week. This frequency worked for some team members, but for others, it was kind of annoying. So, what can Jennifer do so that she's responsible for a project and trusts her while she's responsible and accountable, but she also trusts her senior data scientists to execute their parts and not feel micromanaged?
Yes, so one set of best practices that was suggested by Dr. Ken Blanchard and Dr. Spencer Johnson in their book, The New 1 Minute Manager, includes 3 steps: setting goals together, providing timely positive feedback, and also providing timely negative feedback while building relationships. So, what do we mean by that? Applied to managing data science project, this means setting goals together with a purpose to align on the end result. And aligning on the end result avoids micromanagement of the specific decisions towards that end result. And the process is also focused on building trust such that the goals are accomplished in an, as autonomously as possible by the team members themselves. The practices here involve spending time with your team member, in this case, Jennifer, should be spending time with her team member at the beginning of a new task or responsibility through four techniques. First is working on with the team member on setting up the goals together to understand what good performance looks like. And then, secondly, have the team member write out each goal on a single sheet of paper with delivery dates. Thirdly, you can Jennifer can ask the team member to review the alignment to the most important goals every day and assess progress towards the delivery date. And lastly, if the work does not match the goal when the team member is evaluating it on a daily basis, the team member can adjust their focus towards their goal appropriately. So that's setting goals together. What about providing positive feedback? Well, the purpose is to build trust by noticing when team members are doing something right. And Dr. Blanchard mentions uh, catching someone doing something right. This is to encourage the team to continue to do what works well. And it's also a way for team members to learn to anticipate not just the negative feedback, but also positive feedback and when the majority of the feedback tends to be negative. The practice of how you can approach this in, includes 6 steps. First, praising people as soon as possible in a timely manner, and then be specific about what they did right, and then tell the team member about the impact to the company, as well as how good you feel about it and how it helps the team and yourself. And you can also pause, remember to pause for a moment for the praise to sink in. And usually, like 5 to 7 second pause would do. And then you can encourage the team members to do more of the same and make it clear that you have confidence in them and support their success.
That's really interesting because for oftentimes for positive feedback, people may not specify why it's positive, why it's good. I remember a scenario where someone was saying, "Hey, good job," and then someone else said, "What was that all about?" And the person said, "Well, I must have done something right. Whatever it is, I hope I do it again."
Yes. And then lastly is about providing negative feedback. And the purpose of providing negative feedback is not just to talk about what went wrong, but also to build trust in the process. And you can do this by reaffirming the value you place in the team member and then help them get back on track. And the specific techniques you can use has 7 steps. First, you want to redirect or provide that feedback as soon as possible. Then confirm the fact first and review the specific mistakes together because sometimes they may have a different perspective on what the facts were. And then share how you feel about the mistake and its broader impact for the organization. And then pause a moment to allow time for the feedback to sink in. Then you can share that they're better than their mistakes and that you think well of them as a person. And make sure to remind them that you have the confidence and trust in them and support their success. Finally, when the redirect or the feedback is over, it's over, and you don't have to dwell over it again and again. So, in summary, the ultimate objective for setting the goals together, providing the specific and timely positive and negative feedback, is to show people how to manage themselves and help them succeed when you're not around. And the key underpinning for this concept is that we're not just our behavior; we're the person managing our behavior, so that we can be tough on poor performance, but not on the person. And so this way you can maintain an attitude of positivity in the team while trusting the team members to execute. And Jennifer can practice these techniques as she can feel comfortable being responsible for a project and at the same time trusting her senior data scientists to execute their parts while not feeling micromanaged.
So we just talked about the second area of opportunity, and that's trusting the team members to execute as well. Jennifer can do do that by setting goals together, providing timely positive feedback, and providing timely negative feedback while building relationships. Let's now turn our attention on the third area for new practices.
So, as a tech lead, Jennifer can encourage her team to share more of their methodologies and practices across the teams. And this is actually especially important for the senior team members because this can change a potential sync up or reporting conversation to the tech lead to one that's sharing experiences with the team, which can build a senior data scientist identity within the team and can also be a learning experience for all. In doing this well can help best practice to be adopted faster around the organization. And there are many things that can be shared other than the result of a project. It can be learning on the the data sources used, the tools used, the assumptions they have made, and the methodologies developed.
So that's quite a few specific opportunities for Jennifer. The highlighted ones are communicating changes effectively, trusting the team members to execute, and imparting knowledge confidently. Now, what can Jennifer leverage around the organization to help her to be more successful?
Yes. So Jennifer has a team around her and is reporting in a larger organization. So to keep the team morale high is really a common challenge in data science because the discipline is called a science for a reason. The exploration based on data has many failure modes, and not all attempts produce the desired results. In a typical company, 70% of the experiments can show negative and neutral results, and success rate to generate positive business impact can be only 10 to 20% in some well optimized domains. So, one technique for motivating the team and building trust with partners as a tech lead is to celebrate the small wins, as well as communicating any institutional learning from successful and failed projects in a prompt and regular way. And these crystallized learning can help individual team members stay motivated in their project by recognizing their impact on the business. Even when they are working on a failed project, there could be very important learning there and help your business partner and executives see the progress towards bigger wins down the road.
So that makes sense. What kind of requests can Jennifer make to her manager, Kai, in this case, to better manage, to better mature in her role?
One challenge was making requests to her managers that it really depends on her manager's style and experience. So, what can help with making the specific request to Jennifer's manager um, so that the manager can comfortably provide it is to first discern three approaches: coaching, mentoring, and advising. And coaching is the process of unlocking a team member's potential to maximize their performance. So Jennifer can look to Kai for coaching in observing and providing feedback for her with a focus on the process of asking questions so that Jennifer can reflect on how she's doing. Mentoring involves the process of imparting wisdom and sharing knowledge with a less experienced colleague. So Jennifer can look to Kai for mentorship when she's looking for guidance, not just on the goals, but also look on the capabilities and virtues of working with a team. While mentorship for capabilities can immediately benefit execution, mentorships in virtues can actually have a lasting effect on Jennifer's uh, growth, especially in her character in managing a team. Also, lastly, there is advising. Advising is a process of providing specific information and directions. Jennifer can look to Kai for advice when Kai has direct experience and deep knowledge in achieving specific goals that she set out to achieve.
So we just spent some time talking about Jennifer's request to the team to bring positivity and tenacity to work despite of frequent failures. So um, that's the That's the stage where we look at what her strengths are and what her areas of opportunities are, and how she can leverage her organization. So throughout the process of recognizing strengths and identifying opportunities, she's become more ready to gain clarity to the path forward. We recommend two processes for next steps. With the leadership strengths and potential development areas identified, she can experiment with a simple choose, practice, and review process, or CPR for short. And we recommend a 2-week check-in frequency. After working through a few choose, practice, review, or CPR cycles, she will have gained insights to how she works with the elements of tech lead capabilities and virtues. When she finds herself enthusiastically working on integrating these best practices into her daily work, it's a good time to look into self-coaching with the GROW model. Let's look at each of these in a little bit more detail. So first, the choose, practice, and review. Choose, Jennifer can, so I'm going to guide you to the gray box below. That's an example that illustrates this process. So Jennifer can select one or two items from the opportunities to work on. So as an example, she can choose to practice communicating changes to team members more effectively. For projects that are going through changes, so next is practice. For projects that are going through changes, she can practice a skill that she's chosen to work on. So here, you can look at clear communications, including what has changed and why, how does it impact the immediate project, and what's the timeline of what happens next, and who does what by when. To communicate changes in a timely manner with clarity and authority, she would want to look at one-to-one communication, coordinating a plan of record, announcing the aligned plan of record, and soliciting any questions or comments before moving forward. Now for review, she can set up a meeting with herself in 2 weeks or in a sprint to check in and come back to this section of the book and assess if she's now gained a better understanding or command of the skill. Can team members now better understand the reasons and purpose of the changes? Do team members feel more empowered when they're given a voice in one-on-one setting before a change takes place? So now, if the answer to that is not quite confirmed, not quite direct, then you can, or she can choose to take another sprint to further develop that skill or move on to the next CPR cycle. Now, the GROW model stands for goal, reality, obstacles for options, and will or way forward. It can be an effective tool for self-coaching. To keep it light, we suggest asking yourself 3 questions for each part of the GROW. As an example, if you decide to focus on the goal of practice communicating changes to team members more effectively, your specific goal could be to A, clarify what's changed and why. What does it impact? How does it impact the immediate project? What's the timeline that happens next with who does what by when? And B, communicate with the team through one-on-ones, alignments, and announcements. What would this improve the team members' motivation and NPS, or Net Promoter Score, and reduce employee churn risk? Well, let's next check in on the reality. What actions have you taken so far? Have you clarified what has changed and their impact on immediate projects? Are you giving people a heads up on changes? Are there any practices that's harder to change? As you examine the obstacles or options, some questions to answer may be, have you allocated time to provide feedback for a good path forward for implementing a change? Have you considered the considerations from partners and team members and adjust your plan for the project forward? And finally, let's look at the way forward, or will. What option will you choose? When will you start each action? And what will you commit to doing? Just starting to discuss the reasons behind impact behind the project changes in one-on-ones and listening to team members' responses, it's a great start. You can schedule a review in a couple of weeks to take the next step. Okay, let's now take a look at how this all aligns with our book. This is an eye chart, and it's not meant to be read here word for word. At a high level, we organize the book in 4 main parts or stages. Jennifer's role is that of a senior data scientist or staff data scientist working to, she's at the stage of tech lead. And here, in each stage, there are 2 main parts. There's the hard skills, which we call capabilities, and there's the soft psychosocial skills, which we call virtues. Capabilities are further discussed in TEE, or technology, execution, and expert knowledge. Technology is the tools and frameworks for you to lead more effectively, and execution is practices for you to specify project from vague requirements, and expert knowledge is typically the domain knowledge for you to clarify project alignment to organizational vision and mission, account for business data source nuances, and navigate structural challenges in the organization. Virtues are further discussed in ERA, or ethics, rigor, and attitude. Ethics is a standard for conduct of work that enable you to avoid unnecessary and self-inflicted breakdowns. Rigor is a craftsmanship that generates trust in the results data scientists produce. And attitude is the moods with which you approach workplace situations. So let's kind of orient ourselves a little bit in the capabilities and virtues matrix. And one, we want to we want to recognize leadership strength. We want to recognize opportunities for new practices, and we want to leverage the organization, just like we have done in a lot of detail for Jennifer. Now, how can Jennifer use this book to guide her path even more broadly? So first, let's look at the strength box that's in green. And recognizing leader strength includes communicating changes effectively, includes trusting teams to execute, and includes imparting knowledge confidently. Let's now look at, let's, do we want to go into that, or? Okay, we can go into that a little bit. So prioritizing and managing projects involves taking personal responsibility and asking the question behind the question. Remember, we talked about asking the question behind the question in the strength part. There's 3 levels of prioritization that we discuss. There's innovation impact, there's refinement with RICE, and there's alignment to data strategy. And when we lead, when we talked about the strength in lead and incident response for Jennifer, she has a rigorous 7-step incident response system process and a 5-point postmortem process to guide her in that. And taking responsibilities for results, Jennifer has clarity on goals, and she has a focus on velocity, and she communicates the impact clearly as well. Now, in terms of opportunities, which is the red box, we shared about communicating changes effectively, which includes understanding the reasons for changes, communicating to team members and stakeholders, and documenting that current progress before moving on. And the second part for opportunity is trusting the team to execute, setting the goals together, providing timely positive feedback and negative feedback while building relationships. Imparting knowledge confidently, what's the purpose of that is that's sync up our reporting conversations to one that's sharing experience with the team. And we also talked about topics. There may be topics that don't necessarily have to be business results. It can be data sources examined, tools used, assumptions made, and methodologies developed. And the blue box, in terms of leveraging the organization, because she's not by herself, right? She can certainly leverage the organization by making requests for the team. celebrate the small wins, especially in today's environment. Well, we have to find celebrations in order to really adjust that mood and to adjust the dynamics. We want to promote promptly and regularly communicate any institutional learning from successes and failed project success and failures in terms of projects. And then third, Chris, the and of course we want to reach out to the manager. In addition to requesting the teams to do certain things, we want to also make leverage the manager and his or her expertise to make specific requests for coaching, mentoring, and advising.
Yes, that's a pretty complete summary of what we talked about today.
So there's a couple of questions that I have come across as we were working on this session. So one question, if I can put that in front of you, is in what ways might the planning of a data science project be different from planning an engineering project? What are some risks involved?
Yes, that's a very good question. And there's quite a few differences that I have seen in working on data science projects. First, the project team size can be very different. For a data science project, there are often just one or two data scientists on each particular project, compared with 3 to 10 engineers on complex features, software engineering features. There's also a difference in the project uncertainty. So for data science project, there is a lot of data dependent risks. And for engineering project, usually there is less data dependency, more logic dependency and architecture dependency. So the data dependencies, because new data is coming into the system on a daily basis, the amount of checks and testing that's required is often significantly more than a typical logic only based software module. And the most important one I see for that's difference between data science project and the engineering project is for a data science project, the success often involves demonstrating the success of the project through A/B tests. Whereas for an engineering project, the usual handoff point for an engineering project is feature completion and test completion according to specifications. And the demonstration of business impact, that step is often driven by the product function. So because of those three different main differences that I see, planning a data science project could be very different. It often involves more project stages, involves more iterations, and as the field develops, I also see opportunities where the team is diverging into different subdisciplines like data science product managers and machine learning engineers that closely mimic the existing engineering hierarchy or in engineering team structure. But currently, uh, the data science team lead, tech lead, and managers are often required to be responsible for demonstrating project success from a business impact perspective.
Very good. So it sounds like there's three areas of differences you talked about: the team size, project uncertainty, and also the value
Yes.
demonstration. Okay, very good. And that's an area that there might be other questions like how is this different from a data analytics project or some other product development project.
Yes.
So another question that's come up multiple times is this in today's uh, environment, many organizations are relatively flat, And also there's this being a tech lead who leads without actually managing is an interesting situation to be in. So if the people don't report to me, the question goes, how do I how do I do how do I share feedback, the positive feedback and negative feedback in an effective way?
Yes. So actually, the way I see it, the feedback for people's work can come from any directions, right? Yeah, feedback can be coming from peers, mentors, and sometimes these feedback from the same level can be more effective than from managers because there's less concerns about, oh, how does this affect my annual review, right? Um, but how do you do that in an effective way? Um, the A positive pat on the back could be coming from anyone, and when it's specific, the person receiving the feedback can understand what they can do, continue to do next, right, to produce those good results. More about the negative feedback. The negative feedback, if you're highlighting the natural consequences that results from a mistake, with, for example, a sincere note on how it makes you feel, you, the tech lead, feel, that can be actually quite helpful, especially when the person did not intentionally cause the breakdown. So, the purpose of this feedback is really to build trust in the process. And if you can privately provide these feedback for a peer or a team member, it's often quite valued. And also, when you're providing these feedback, make sure you're addressing the action and not the person.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you should be talking about that particular result you produced. It was late and after the intended set date for the milestone, and it had an outdated metric. So, be very specific and fact based, not something like you were tardy and careless. That would not be getting a good result because you're targeting the person and not the action.
Very good. So we have successfully gone over a little bit of the hour, but what we have illustrated here is there are many strength opportunities, and there's a whole organization that you can potentially leverage to be a better leader in data science. So we welcome your questions as mentioned before, and we also have some additional sessions planned for the next 3 months. So next session up will be part 5, March 13th, and we are looking forward to seeing you. And this is a great weekend that with many holidays. There's a Lunar New Year for everyone who's celebrating. There's a Valentine's Day that's coming tomorrow, and there's also President's Day that's coming on Monday. So thank you very much for your attention and questions and interest. Please keep the questions coming, and we look forward to seeing you in March.
Thank you.